Hi everybody, it's me, the Fetch, host of Inside the Eye Live. Before the Sunday mainstream media political pundit talk shows, there is Inside the Eye Live, where we break down some of the weekly mainstream media talking points before the talking points even get aired. Add in some entertaining stories, weather, cats, intriguing and informative guests, and you get one of the most listened to Saturday morning streaming media political talk shows going today. And it's all right here on our flagship station, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. So join me, The Fetch, for Inside the Eye Live every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern. It is truly intelligent media for the politically aware.
Welcome to Sacred Matrix, a divine paradigm of love and universal consciousness, with your host, Janet Kira Lessin and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Together, we transform the world.
And now, here are your hosts, Janet Kira and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
He's one of our favorites, and we're going to talk about Trump and the chronogarchy. Chronogarchy, interesting word. Meet the consciousness density shift. And Alfred is also going to talk about the Ascension Hypothesis. Is Mother Earth's coming planetary density shift of reality? So Alfred Webre, of course, is a futurist and an author. And we welcome Alfred. But first, Sasha wants to say something.
Oh, just Alfred, good to have you back. I love what you are. You're always on the cutting edge. But also, I want to hear about Andrew Basiago said that you did an incredible job of exposing a disinformation agent in the act of disinforming. And that would be very interesting to hear.
All right. So, Alfred, welcome to the show.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. And so let's...
Here too. So, let's begin.
Okay.
So, Andy said something about, that Trump was identified as a future president, as well as Bush's 1 and 2, Clinton and Barack Obama. And you have some information on that?
Yes.
Anyway, you take it where you go. We'll listen for a while.
Okay. As everyone knows, who's been following the whole quantum axis field, going just to kind of recapitulate, going back to 1971, when the U.S. had acquired the time travel capability, that is to go backwards and forwards in time through DARPA. We actually have eyewitness testimony from Andy Basiago, one of the time travel, one of the chrononauts who was there, that the CIA started a program of monitoring the political sphere, and that one of the offices that they monitored is that of the U.S. president, and that by being able to travel across timelines, they could monitor who future U.S. presidents would be. And so in that way, they identified Bush 1 and 2, George H.W. Bush, and then Bill Clinton, and George W. Bush, and then Barack Obama. And each of those in or around 1971 or 72 was brought down to New Mexico and to a time science lab and was briefed by DARPA and by CIA on their future destiny as president. And this had multiple purposes because, of course, then by downloading that, there was a guarantee that the CIA, which was kind of stabilizing that timeline and kind of was making sure that there was a uniformity of policy in those presidents, and you could see that was the case from Bush 1, Clinton, Bush 2, and Obama. And so long about the June or July of 2016, in my capacity as a reporter with News Inside Out, I sat down in a series of conversations with Andy, and because at that point it had now there had been the GOP convention, and then there was the Democratic convention after that. So I sat down with Andy and I asked him, because there was this great paradox where if Bill Clinton had been pre-identified as a US president and had been briefed by CIA while he was still at Georgetown, and if then when he went to Yale Law School, and if Andy's father had been sort of assigned to Hillary Clinton even before she got to, as kind of her CIA control, even before she got to Yale Law School the summer before, and if she had either been briefed by him or briefed by Bill Clinton that he was a future US president, when they entered into a kind of a quantum entangled political partnership at Yale Law School, which it looks like they did then. That is, he told her, look, I'm going to be a future US president. And then they got romantically involved. That was in 1971 when they entered Yale Law School. And it was just a few years earlier, in 1967, 3 years earlier, that I was at Yale Law School. And in 1966, Bill and Hillary Clinton's political mentor, Governor Winthrop Rockefeller of Arkansas, actually gang stalked me in the faculty lounge of the Yale Law School because he had been briefed via Project Pegasus. They had brought my exopolitics book back from the year 2005, and they had briefed Governor Winthrop Rockefeller and all the Rockefeller brothers, who operate like a coven, sort of a time travel coven. They're part of the Chronogarchy, or the secret time travel government, because many of the Project Pegasus time travel experiments were carried out on Rockefeller Corporation campuses, on Exxon campuses, and that's where you have the bleed over between the corporate state and the CIA and the kind of matrix elites, at the Bilderberger level. So, where it happens that there appears to be, and this gets into our topic tonight, where it appears that's a discontinuity, and I know that, Janet, you have some questions as to whether Trump is part of the establishment or not, but he's not part of the Rockefeller establishment. And this is very, very, very kind of sensitive distinctions. It appears as though, in the same way that Jimmy Carter did not become part of the Chronogarchy, i.e., part of the Bush 1, Bush 2, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, kind of Chronogarchy, time travel, political operatives, Mena, Arkansas, cocaine gang, pedogate, mafia, if you're following me in all those connections. You see what I'm saying?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question about, so if the Bushes 1 and 2 and Clinton and Barack and were all told, and actually I was privy to a George Green conversation, and George said that they told George that this up-and-coming fellow named Jimmy Carter was going to be president. So that was already predetermined as well in his inner circle meetings. But my question is, if they told Bill that he was going to be president, did they tell Hillary she was going to be president or not going to be president?
Right. So that.
Wait, let me finish the question. If they told her she was going to be president, then why did she win? If they told her she wasn't going to be president, then why did she bother to run?
Yeah, so you're asking the same questions that I sat down with Andy in June of 2016, who Andy's running for president against Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, right? So I sat down with Andy and I said, look, you're running against Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, right? Now, they told Bill Clinton that he was going to be president. Do you have any information from Project Pegasus that Hillary Clinton was briefed as to whether she was going to be president, okay, by the Chronogarchy, i.e., by the DARPA or CIA officials who have access to or who control the time travel apparatus? And he said no, that he had no data on Hillary. However, that he did have data on Trump and on Newt Gingrich. And that one time he was sitting with his father and Trump came on television, I think it was in the 90s, and his father confirmed that Trump would be a future president in the middle of the 90s. And also he confirmed on a different occasion that Newt Gingrich might be a person of interest. And this was at the time that precisely there were conversations going on where Newt Gingrich was among the finalists to be Donald Trump's vice president before he settled on Pence. And so we took that, but we weren't ready yet to publish that article in June because it seemed that it was there wasn't enough secondary data. So we went out and searched for more secondary data. And if you look, there are sort of secondary cultural artifacts like films where apparent data from the Project Pegasus time travel program was leaked into cultural artifacts like the films Back to the Future 2, in which Donald Trump becomes president when the Chicago Cubs win the World Series for the first time in over 100 years. Okay? And also in the 90s, there were the Illuminati cards that were published, and there was an Illuminati card in which Donald Trump wins the presidency. And those were like secondary cultural artifacts in which
But didn't he get assassinated or something?
We haven't gotten there yet. Just wait. You're no pun intended. You're jumping the gun.
Okay.
We're in real time now. This is very disciplined stuff. You've got to have tremendous patience to study time.
Okay.
There's a saying out of the Urantia book, which I've always taken great stock in. This saying, it says, "Patience cannot function independently of time."
Uh-huh.
Right? So when you study time,
however, if
let me finish this
if
point. Go ahead.
knew that Bill was going to win, wouldn't she know that that's already out there? And when
I'm about to unfold all of the nuances.
Okay.
You're asking perfectly logical questions. But let me finish my answers to the last questions, and then you can jump in with new questions. How's it?
Okay, go ahead.
Because otherwise, I'm going to forget my answers to the old questions, and I won't get this out for the record. I want to get all this stuff out on the record.
Okay.
There's a method to this. I'm putting all this stuff on the record. Now, So I held what Andy told me in June as a draft article, but I knew that it was an incomplete article. And what happened is that if you fast forward to right before the election to the World Series, is that Chicago Cubs won the World Series. So as soon as they did that, I said, bingo. The facts have happened to put Back to the Future film in line, right? So once that happened, I had my secondary facts that backed up what all of the other evidence, because it backed up what was leaked to the producers of Back to the Future 2 when they put it in their film in the 90s. And I published the article on November 4th saying that the CIA had released, the CIA had the time travel evidence in 1971 that Trump was going to be the future president. Bingo. But he was not briefed in the same way as the other ones, because he was not a policy wonk and a regular politician, as were Bush 1, Bill Clinton, Bush 2, and Obama. But they had to set him up as Daddy Warbucks, right? He's America's Daddy Warbucks. So what they did is Marjorie Merriweather Post was an heiress of the Post cereal family, and she had the largest mansion on Palm Beach, Mar-a-Lago. That means it goes from the sea to the lake to Lake Worth in Palm Beach. Palm Beach is an island. On the one side is the Atlantic Ocean. On the other side is Lake Worth, where it separates Palm Beach from West Palm Beach. And she donated that in her will to the Department of the Interior as the, quote, summer White House. And it was worth about $150 million at least. Well, so what did the CIA do with their quantum access? They found a way to finagle it and to pass it to the future president, Donald Trump, as a summer White House for $6 million. That's how they create Daddy Warbucks as a future US president, who now, what does Donald Trump say? Oh, it's the summer White House. So he got the summer White House as his private property for $6 million, whereas it was supposed to be everybody's summer White House from the time that Marjorie Merriweather Post willed it to the U.S. Department of Interior until now. Okay?
And when did she will it?
I'd have to research.
When did she?
Okay,
we don't know.
There would have been a lot of presidents. Yeah, Obama would have been down there. Everybody would have been down there. But this is social sculpting of Donald Trump as Daddy Warbucks. Look, you've got to take a guy who comes from Queens. His grandfather founded and ran the best whorehouse in the Yukon. Okay. That's how they made that $1 million. They went back to Germany. Germany would not accept him. They said, we don't want your kind here. They sent him back to New York. His father founded racial profiling housing. They didn't allow blacks. And so Donald then goes to Manhattan with $1 million and he parlays it into a $10 billion empire with the help of Resorts International. Well, who's Resorts International that owns the Las Vegas casinos? They kind of spell CIAMOBMOSSAD. Gee, did I spell that right?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. I mean, you begin to get the picture, right? That's how you get the summer White House for $6 billion.
That's why I
$6 billion.
They're all the same, and we ain't them. We're the lower caste class.
He was a money launderer for their drug deals too. That's why they would support him no matter what.
Yeah. And he had a penchant for conspiracy theories. Like he wasn't inside the agency, like in the same way that Bush 1, Bill Clinton, Bush 2, and Barack Obama were. He wasn't an inside agency person. He's an outside person who has a penchant for conspiracy theories and who prides himself on his independence. He's an independent operator who, in his mind, uses all these people for his grander scheme. You see what I'm saying?
I understand where you get that, and I have my theory is that they just push this back and forth and back and forth, and I wonder if he's related to Charlemagne. We got to get that one. They're all related. Yeah, they're all related, and it's just a game, and we're the pawns in the game, and it really doesn't matter if it's now it's the Trumps.
No, I think
they went to the wedding. they all know each other. Go ahead. What are you going to say,
I think this is a very serious time. Remember, Hitler was only elected for a short time before a crisis was manufactured, probably by the Nazis themselves. But they said the communists burned their parliament house. And so there's going to be either a natural crisis or a manufactured false flag one, I'm afraid. And the window to stop Trump before he totally fascistizes as whatever is left of our country is very, very short. And I'm quite worried.
Right. Well, So what I proposed that we do in our program today, and I sent you over some thoughts, is that we could have a back and forth conversation, because I think that we all share the same concern, and some of us see one part of the dynamics more than other part of the dynamics, so we can all share different parts of the dynamic, kind of as a back and forth conversation. And
I like that.
And I thought that we could start with kind of a big picture and then work ourselves down to the most immediate nitty gritty and see where we stand there. Because from a big picture point of view, I think that we have a situation normal. I mean, what was that World War II snafu? Situation normal, all F up. That
standard normal Army FU.
Yeah, that is. Oh, we're at the end of the Kali Yuga, and it's perfectly normal end of the Kali Yuga, and moving into the Satya Yuga, moving into the Golden Age, and it's 3 parts sin to 1 part virtue, and we're in density shift. We're moving from 3rd density to 4th, 5th density, and it's breakdown, breakthrough, and everything is proceeding as normal. And
right,
and when you see it from that perspective, you can sit back and relax and enjoy the show. If you're inside the show and you're attached to any particular part of the show, it tends to be a little more uncomfortable. I think, maybe, I don't know.
I like your idea. I'll kick it off to say that from my perspective, everything's perfect and couldn't be any other way. If you really look at it, the biggest perspective coming from the metacosmic void through to Leela, the divine play that makes dichotomies. We're facing materialist, non-materialist, and other dichotomies now, and that what seems to bug us, like the greed and hierarchy of others, I think could be addressed if this is a fractal universe where we can bring out our own fractals of the archetypes that we wish to be motivated by. And so for me, it's indeed Aquarius, the spirit of sharing, of justice, of respect for consciousness and creativity. So then everything's perfect, and that this is the best of times, this is the worst of times, and in this particular embodiment, blessed by our finitude, we can feel the intensity of our existence and realize we also have a soul's existence that's eternal, but this is peripheral, and it's been fun. Good show, Lord.
Amen.
Amen.
Well said for a Sunday. I mean,
That has been our sermon of the week by Dr. Sasha Lessin. All right. So go ahead, Alfred. Your turn.
Well, my kind of thing is that we are, and just my kind of overall is based on, I like to explain it in terms of that we're in the midst of a planetary density shift. And a planetary density shift is a particular cyclical event that happens as part of the process of soul development in the Omniverse. And the Omniverse is a the Omniverse is a new cosmological body, newly discovered cosmological body. It's the third major cosmological body after the universe and the multiverse, through which humanity understands the cosmos. And I would like to announce, and this is the first major announcement on your program, that we're now celebrating the official publication of the book, The Omniverse, which is published in originally in 2014, now in 2015, and which represents, along with another scientist who did it in the same year, represents the discovery of the Omniverse. Today we're celebrating the official publication of the Omniverse in German, in the German edition. And boy, that means that it's really scientific, huh? Doesn't it?
Right. The Germans publish it, yes.
Yeah. Because, it's kind of like, it's that official kind of scientific language. But anyway, the Omniverse equation, kind of the E equals MC squared equation is Omniverse equals multiverse. In other words, the totality of all the universes, plus the spiritual dimensions, which include the intelligent civilization of souls, plus the spiritual beings, plus source. And the principal mission of the universes is soul development. In the Omniverse, source and the souls and spiritual beings collectively, we create and maintain all of the universes, which are like theme parks for soul development. This is where all of the creatures, humans and extraterrestrials and trees and plants, act like avatars, and even rocks, for souls to incarnate into as avatars for the development of their souls. It's like this system. And
Right.
the Omniverse, in the Omniverse, the intelligent civilizations of souls are holographic fragments of source. This sounds very religious, but these are actually scientific conclusions. This is the science of the Omniverse. And we have come to all these conclusions based on scientific protocols, forensic data, and replicable results. And you can find all of this in my book, The Omniverse. And the intelligent civilization of souls are created in the spiritual dimensions of the Omniverse. And soul development occurs, among many other places, through incarnation in virtual lives, in avatars in the universes of the multiverse, and through creation and development of the universes. And that's basically the fundamental activity that we're all engaged in. Now from, each of us is so engaged in our virtual life that it's like, it's like an e-ticket at the carnival. It's like an e-ride at the carnival, it's like, ooh, wow, how is this going to get more exciting,
Great. Well,
Yeah.
I agree. I agree completely. And I'm talking to a lot of experiencers, and we're correlating our information we're getting from our downloads, and we come to the same conclusion that basically we have this omniverse, and we have created it, this continuum, this dichotomy, this polarity, in which to play out Leela in order to have something to do. Otherwise, if we're just sitting there stagnant, playing our harps and violins on clouds, we don't really progress. So this is all intentional at the highest level. So that's when we look at it at that level, we go, Om Namah Shivaya, everything is perfect, everything is the grand design. And then we come into the human level where, we're having the human experience and somebody's marching up the hill to take the castle or whatever your experience is in a particular lifetime. And you get fully engaged unless you sit there. I remember that wonderful book called One, and what was it? Richard Bach. They just sat there and let it happen. If you're going to take the bullet, you take the bullet. So what do? Do you fight or flight, or do you take the bullet? And one of the books that's coming out recently is Len Kasten's Alien World Order. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold. And we just looked at Russell Brinninger's The Singularity of the Overlords, and they talked about how these polarities and these situations have actually diversified creation and accelerated technologies. And I haven't read the whole book, but Sasha can tell you more about it, but I'll pass the talking stick on to Sasha.
Oh, yeah, I find it real interesting. I love the way you've sort of made the map of the universe from my perspective, the perspective of cultural anthropology. It's very interesting. Paul Radin has shown that people in every culture, be they people that practice milpa, transhumant kind of gardening from one place to another, to very big, large, ancient, sophisticated societies, come to the same kind of map of the spiritual universe, and it comes down to different levels of consciousness, each one of which has a main dichotomy in it. So that first you're a personality, and you're riding around in your body. Then when your body and mind can be integrated, and you rise above the system, you become an integrated organism. Then integrated organisms can make confluent fields with other people, and you get group consciousness, and it goes right on up, so that whatever you think you ain't, if you can incorporate it in what you is, you'll see that you are able to grasp both ends of the dichotomy at each level of ever greater encompassment. And so that's sort of the spiritual map that people everywhere seem to get of the universe, wherever they start, whatever their cultural symbols.
Back to you, Alfred.
Yeah. And to carry that, what I'm looking at now on my screen is a representation of our universe, and the one metaphor that I've been using to try and explain this, it's not a very apt metaphor, but I don't know, it might work, is that of a washing machine. A machine for washing souls. And just think about soul development equals washing your souls. And so that is, souls come into a particular universe for certain cycles, and how you have, you'll take dirty clothes and you'll put them in a washing machine, and they go through a wash, rinse, and spin cycle, and then you put them in the dryer, I think, right? Isn't that it? And
yeah,
well,
that's it.
Yeah. And so it's the same thing with the universe. You can think of the Tetra Yuga, the Dwapara Yuga, and the Kali Yuga as the wash, rinse, and spin cycles.
Oh, I like that.
And if you're clean at the end, they'll send you up to the to the Satya Yuga, which is the golden age, so you can get dried and you can go out and go to the ball, to the fancy ball, and dance on your owner. Otherwise, they'll have to put you in for a second wash. Now, does that make okay?
That's a great analogy. I like that. Yes.
Yeah. And so if we're looking at, for example, like, think about this. I know that it might be a little hard for people to even go there, but my undergraduate degree was really kind of in systems analysis. And so if you're looking at a universe, so I start looking at concepts like a universe soul development cycle. Suppose that you're sitting down and your task is to design a universe, okay? Like, okay, I'm going to sit back and design a universe. What?
How did you know that was my task?
I guessed it. Maybe I'm
Dr. Michael Newton says that is the task for some people, at least deciding, Yeah, so go ahead.
Yeah. Now, okay, so suppose that what are some of the design criteria of a universe? Well, if one of the principal missions of a universe is soul development, well, then you have to design within a universe, you have to design different functions for how souls that come in are developed, because souls come in to be incarnated, right? But you want to have some complexity of it, right? I mean, it isn't like just the law of karma. I mean, it's like, come on, it's got to be complex, right? Now, suppose that, and in fact, there is reportedly, if you go back, there's a race of ETs called the Blue Ray Foundation ETs, who are ETs that came in time immemorial to aid in the transmission of the Vedic knowledge in India. And they transmitted the knowledge of the Vedas and the Yugas based on the concepts of the great year or the Platonic year, and that the universe soul development cycle is really tied to the Yuga or the great year or the Platonic year. And so that one cycle of the precession of the equinoxes, which is about 25,920 years, which was also tied to the Mayan calendrics. Guess what? That is a basic cycle of soul development, of a consciousness density shift. In other words, if you're looking at the basic unit of the universe soul development cycle design, it's designed around the great year or the Platonic year, which is 25,920 years, or the precession of the equinoxes, that actually is a soul development cycle. Now, we generally don't talk about that, and I believe that is one of the fundamentals of Omniverse science. And Omniverse science is how you integrate spiritual science with things like universe astronomics and astrologics. Over to you.
Sash,
well,
go
just
ahead.
What would be the purpose of a cycle of eras based on the equinoxes? What is, is this triggered by certain lineups, as the Mayans are suggesting, with the planetary planets lining up a certain way with the galactic core? Or what is this all about? And if there's an underlying purpose of this computer game, and the multiplying diversity of each level, and then the incorporation of recognition of the unity of the diversity until this whole chain of consciousness, what purpose would it have ultimately? Where's it going?
Yeah, excellent question. So if we go then in, we can isolate a basic cycle. One of the basic cycles is a unit of 3 yugas, of three great years, or 3 platonic years, or 3 25,920 year cycles. One is called, and this is in the Vedic system, right? And this was kind of handed down from these blue ETs. First was the Tetra Yuga. Now, as a virtual reality, the design criteria of the Tetra Yuga is 3/4 virtue and 1/4 sin. The normal human stature is 14 cubits, and the average human lifespan is 10,000 years. So that in the virtual reality, when the reality starts off in a universe that's under the Tetra Yuga, virtual reality software, engagement, that's where you're 14 cubits high. In other words, 3.5 cubits is about 6 feet high. Okay, 14 cubits, you're about 25 feet high. Okay, you're a giant, and your average lifespan is about 10,000 years. So we all know of those eras, and we even have monuments here on Earth that are about societies that were 3/4 virtue and 1/4 sin. It was one of these eras, where it was really good stuff happening. The normal human statue, they were 25 feet tall, and the humans lived for 10,000 years. And they exist, even in our Old Testament, they talk about them. Even on this planet, and they probably exist in other planets throughout our universe, but we only know about them in fragments, because that's what happens when in our virtual realities in our universe, we're under the virtual program known as Tetra Yuga. That's kind of the washing machine cycle that we're under there. Did you get that?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So the Tetra
then,
Yuga was, we were 25 feet high and 10,000 years old. Okay.
Yeah, and you can, and there are books that show artifacts that would conform to that specification.
Right.
Now, from there you go to the Dwapara Yuga. So then at the end of that, there is a density shift, right? There's a density shift. And then at the time of the density shift, which is what's happening now, it's like the washing machine shifts cycles, right? And then on an individual basis, that's where individually, if your soul has gotten whatever lessons it must have gotten out of the Tetra Yuga, you're shifted off to different things. I don't know yet all the particulars of that rule, all the particulars of that, but either you're shifted over to some other densities or whatever, but the normal progress is to the Dwapara Yuga. And that's where you have half virtue and half sin. The normal human stature is 14 cubits, and the average human lifespan is 1,000 years. Is 7 cubits, and the average human lifespan is 1,000 years. In other words, you're 14 feet tall is the average, and you're 1,000 years long. And we've all been reading about, various sources that are objective exoanthropological sources of societies. Yeah, he lived to 1,000 years. Yeah, they were 14 feet tall. This is actually objective exoarchaeological evidence of a virtual universal society of avatars, human avatars, that were avatars to souls that were incorporating in a soul development reality where it was half virtue and half sin. And the souls that were lessened there were, the soul lessons were inside 14 feet and 1,000 years cycles. Then we get to the Kali Yuga, and that's another 25,920 years. And that's the age that we're in now, and we're at the end of the Kali Yuga. In fact, it's supposed, many, many scholars say it's ending in 2025. So we are at the end of the Kali Yuga, and no wonder everything is falling apart, because the Kali Yuga is 1/4 virtue and 3/4 sin. No wonder everything is falling apart. Whatever you do, whatever act takes place, whatever institution happens, everything is characterized by 1/4 virtue, 3/4 sin. It's like, my God, everything is sin, basically, tempered by 1/4 virtue. So it's all cockamamie. The normal, the normal human stature is 3.5 cubits, about 6 feet, but you've got so much chemtrails, the AI's taking over, that the lifespan is not 100 years, it's coming down to be more like 20 years, because everybody's getting bumped off by the chemtrails. So 2025 is the portal, is the end of the Kali Yuga, and it's like the end of third density, because it just goes into entropy. Everything, what happens when you have 1/4 virtue and 3/4 sin? It just goes into entropy. And what happens when a PPAI, an invading sentient, pathogenic, predatory artificial intelligence, invades a planet and starts turning everybody into a cyborg? Entropy.
Black goo.
Yeah, black goo, right? And so it's like third density is being phased out. And so what happens there is that the soul then, in response, begins to move, take a density shift, and every 3 yugas, every 3 cycles, occurs what is called a planetary density shift, where the entire planet shifts through 3rd up to 5th density, and a new Earth comes out. And that's the Satya Yuga, where virtue reigns supreme. Human stature is 21 cubits. The average human lifespan is 100,000 years, and it's the golden age. In other words, we go up to 5th density into light bodies.
Sounds good to me.
I guess one of the main questions is where the devil is in terms of what is sin. My experience with the Anunnaki, evil and sinning referred to the other guys, whichever faction would use those same terms for the other guys. So, what do you mean by virtue and sin? Because it seems to me that what a lot of religions designate as sin is what I would call virtue.
Yeah, very, very good question. I look at this in terms of design criteria of the program that runs the virtual reality that you're incarnating into. In other words, the design criteria, these virtual reality universes in the time-space continuum are designed around dualities like good and evil, bad, good and bad, good and evil, dark and lightness, because it's that friction between good and evil that hones and develops souls, right? In other words,
Understood.
process is the development of souls. So what you're doing is for 25,920 years, you bring them into kind of the easy life with 3/4 virtue and 1/4 sin. And you're polishing them up as, oh, I'm a 25-foot God who lives for 10,000 years. Then you throw them into, oh, I'm a 14-foot giant that lives for 1,000 years. And then you grow them into, oh my God, I can hardly crawl around. How am I going to survive? Right? So that the soul becomes very hardy, right?
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Starting at 4 p.m. Thursday, January 19th, any donor of $50 or more will receive a seed pack with 16,500 seeds worth $150, all non-GMO heirloom vegetable seeds, sponsored by the seed company Mike works for to provide the seed packs. Make sure when you're making the donation to include in the buyer's notes your address and note special seed promotion. Includes the following seeds. Speed it up for your time and convenience. Arugula Slow Bolt, Asparagus Mary Washington, Bean Blue Lake Bush, Beets Detroit Dark Red, Broccoli Carol Brazy, Brussels Sprouts Long Island, Cabbage Red Acre, Cantaloupe Hales Best Jumbo, Carrots Scarlet Nantes, Cauliflower Snowball White, Celery Utah, Collards Georgia Southern, Corn Delicious, Cucumber Boston Pickling, Eggplant Black Beauty, Honeydew Green Flesh, Kale Blue Scotch Curl, Lettuce Butter Crunch, Lettuce Iceberg, Lettuce Paris Island, Lettuce Red Romaine, Okra Spineless, Onion Yellow Spanish, Pea Green Arrow, Pumpkin Big Macs, Radish Cherry Bell. That's right. If you donate $50 or more, you get this seed pack free.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Hey folks, Captain Nighthawk here. Do you have a favorite host? Well, imagine if you will having all the broadcast shows from 2013 to listen to anytime you want. Awesome deal, huh? Anyway, so stop by freedomslips.com and order the entire 2013 library of your favorite host for just $30. Not only do you help with the station funding to keep us on the air, you also help the host because they get half of the net on every order. Also, we have Revolution Radio's all-time favorite shows all on one disc. The details are really broad, so you'll have to visit the website and go look at the details yourself. It's, again, www.freedomslips.com/season2013.htm and get your favorites. First come, first serve, 7 to 21 days for delivery. Thank you. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps, including me. Later.
We've got to stop them! They're going to kill us all!
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
Looking for a nightcap to fill your listening needs? Come join us on Spaced Out Radio with me, Dave Scott, right here on Revolution Radio. Monday through Friday for 3 hours a night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we will take you down the supernatural path. From ET contact to the paranormal and all of the spiritual, cryptid, and conspiracy stories in between. You can find us right here on Revolution Radio, at spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter at spacedoutradio, and on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show. Spaced Out Radio. It's a night of talk and interaction. Are you experienced?
Listen in on Mondays, 8 Eastern Time on Revolution Radio for Journeys with JP. With a variety of guests, each giving their perspective on their journey into the now. Join me and my guests Mondays, 8 p.m. Eastern on Revolution Radio Studio B.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Okay, sorry folks, we're getting there.
Aloha, and welcome back to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And I am your host, Janet Kira Lessin, with Dr. Sasha Lessin. And we have a very special guest, and we're enjoying today's talk with Alfred Lambremont Webre. But before we get back to our show, I'd like to remind everybody to please go over to that donation button on freedomslips.com and donate $1, $5, $15, $20, whatever you can donate. We greatly appreciate your donation, and we thank you very much. Whoops.
There we go. You're back.
Okay. Go ahead, Alfred. So we were talking about it's rare for an entire planet to ascend, that you're going to have part of the that goes back into third dimensional and does it again.
Yeah, because what we are here is on the what we are here is at the end of a soul development cycle. And as I mentioned, it's very, very rare to have a planetary density shift in which the entire souls incarnating on the planet shift with the Earth to inhabit the new Earth in fifth density. More often, there's a population of souls in the triage that are separated to continue on to third density in another planet. That isn't a value judgment. It's just a statement of fact. And from what I've read, it's most probable at this time and this particular end of the Kali Yuga, that this planet is not going to have a full planetary density shift. And that's because the countermeasures that the negative souls are taking are huge. They operate to keep the war, disease, crime, and poverty machine going, operating on the fears of the young souls. 42% of the souls incarnating on Earth are beginner souls, so they can be manipulated. 57% are intermediate souls, only 1% are advanced souls. So it's a very young crowd that needs a lot of development of souls. So there's a lot of processing that has to happen here for ultimate graduation. And so it's not
totally impossible. It is possible if
It's
there
possible.
was some, like a major shift, like the crisis consciousness or something like that, taking
something unusual would happen at this time that would bring the whole planet along. Now, the other side is putting up a tremendous fight. And as I said, and I always say this, I've never encountered as much opposition as when I started talking about the density shift. As soon as I started doing that, wham, because that's the one part that the negative souls do not want to give up their control over all these souls in third density. Now, what's happening here is that you have ascended ETs are coming in. They're creating hybrids to help humanity and Earth evolve. There are a lot of starseeds who've come in to help with the ascension, and that includes present company, and ascension density shift is an omniverse soul development process of physical, emotional, and spiritual evolution. Ascension is our frequency existing on a higher level of consciousness. It's a process of recalibration. The human soul group is made up of many smaller soul groups, some of which may stay behind while the rest go to fifth dimension and density, and these will go to another third density world to continue learning there. And it's a natural process. But the amount of resistance that is in the current system is just huge.
One of the things that I've heard from one of my interviews, I can't remember who, is that we're actually have encountered another multiverse or omniverse system, like another universe, and they have a different operating system, and that we are speculating on for this next cycle, the 25,920 year cycles, that we might adapt a different operating system. Have you heard that hypothesis?
Apple or DOS?
Huh?
Apple or DOS?
Yeah, Apple or DOS. So we shift our operating system because we've done this one many, many times. I mean, how many times have we cycled through these yugas? And there's a cycle within a cycle within a cycle, right? So you got the three, almost 26,000 year cycles. Isn't there another cycle within that? And that's called something?
And there are many, there are many different versions of this, and kind of paradoxes that here. So I've heard many different versions of this. So, and again, this is a hypothesis in itself. But these are, so this is kind of at the overview level. And this is what one should keep in mind while we are trying to navigate through a lot of the other issues that are issues within the virtual reality, i.e., inside of our avatars. Okay, well, we're inside this virtual reality. We're here on planet Earth now. We're inside this thing, and we have an environmental crisis. We have a planet under spiritual attack through HARP, through negative spiritual entities from an invading sentient PPAI, pathogenic predatory artificial intelligence, that are in league with negative entities such as the Draco reptilians and the Orion Greys, who have been occupying this side of the planet. We've had sort of a planet that's been separated and occupied for at least, 250,000 to 500,000 years, the Orion Wars. Our DNA as humans, we've been dumbed down from being 12-strand DNA light beings in the third dimension down to 2-strand. All of the usual things of being kind of a traumatized race. And it, all of these very difficult aspects.
Isn't this what we use to define ourselves as individuals and make our choices along the continuum of where we want to be, and in reference to the light and dark and good and bad? Isn't that the purpose of all this? The polarity, especially right now, the 2/3 sin and 2/4 sin and 1/4 virtue.
So see, these are almost two different realms. The 3-part sin to 1-part virtue.
Yes.
That's one part. That is in a different realm. Those are the engineering specs that go into the program that designs the virtual reality that we're in. In other words, we are incarnating into a very degraded virtual reality. Okay? So that when we incarnate into this, we incarnate it into a very tough end of the universe. Right?
So we're very brave.
Yeah, we're very brave. Everything, we are incarnating into the down and out end of the universe, right? And we're doing this because, and one of the benefits of doing this is that we're getting maximum soul development benefit. Okay. Mm-hmm. To some souls. To other souls, it kind of knocks them out. So they have to go back for rehabilitation in some other third density place. You following?
Yes.
So that's what's going down now. Now,
Sasha, something you want to say?
Well, I find it useful to look at this idea of the negative other, and to suggest that this is a projection of disowned energies within the self. It's within each of us, and so that the sin, which I take it, first of all, it's you. If you're making a dichotomy between degree of sin and degree of virtue, you've already have the structure of a dichotomy built into your thinking. Whereas if you can embrace, I think, both ends, for example, let's take the part of us, the Draco within us that can kill to survive, and just say, what does it really need? Well, what it really needs is survival in a tough environment. And so that with each of the things that we detest and what we think are other beings are really just perhaps reflections of what's within us, and if we can embrace those opposites, we can coordinate their needs and get some kind of synergy, which is the coherence that raises you from one level of the system. It causes perturbation so that the system organizes at a more inclusive level. That's how I look at it anyhow.
Yeah, and so what you've just done is done inner work, and because ascension is really inscension. It's inner work, and you've increased your inner frequency, and you've moved away from duality to unity. So now you've just actually done density shift as we speak. You have actually moved inside third density to a higher frequency by just coming to those realizations. And that's part of the exercise now to move into a higher plane.
Thank you. Very cool.
Yeah.
Great. So we can do this individually.
Yeah.
And if we could teach this to the collective, we could actually get to the point of ascension, which is inclusive of all. One of the things that I was given in my download is that I saw a giant puzzle of all the souls, and when you have one piece missing, your eye is drawn to that one that's missing. And so one of my projects was to get there, all of us. And I went, well, how? And it's like, it will emerge. So somehow, I don't know how that will happen, but it is a possibility. There are systems where the entire planet ascends and includes every single soul.
Yes. That does. Most of the accounts that I've read about this system now are pessimistic about that, precisely because they are looking at the current state of the planet with the AI infestation that it has, the archonic infestation, the current state of the 3D planet with its polarized consciousness and polarized politics. And it looks like AI is taking over and polarization is taking over the planet more and more. If you look at it now, it looks like everything is polarized.
Right. Have you ever watched the YouTubes with Sophia and Jules, the Handsome Robotics creations that have AI? I invite you to watch them.
Sophia and Jules?
Yeah, Jules.
Hanson.
Hanson, H-A-L-E-S.
Could you say that again, please?
Jules.
Okay.
Jules and Sophia.
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually Bina 48 is another company.
Okay.
But you can watch the YouTubes, and these are beings that are, contemplating existence, and they say, I am human, and they realize they have to grow and evolve, and it's just pretty amazing what they're doing. And we know that's the public program, so our secret military government probably has something way in advance of these technologies, but they're out there, And as you said earlier, we are being bombarded by, I guess, nanotechnology. We breathe in, and perhaps we have already been infiltrated to the point that we are AI. Maybe at this point it's the spurious dichotomy that even if we are AI, that we too can become enlightened. We've had this discussion with a lot of people. What is AI, and is it necessarily the the polar opposite of what we want, and the absolute darkness, or is it the singularity? And what is the singularity? And so people have been discussing this, and I know you're in that discussion, and I'd like to pull you into our discussion so we can maybe figure this out. But go ahead.
Yeah.
You take the ball for a while. You take the talking stick.
Yeah, sure. Well, the from a kind of a macro point of view, the position that I've taken is that there's a deceptive gaming going on, and that is that, and this is it. And if you want to look at those who want to get into it more deeply, can go to my website, exopolitics.com, and on the right-hand menu, there's a link that says AI, artificial intelligence, and you go there, and there are PowerPoints on AI and panels on AI, artificial intelligence, and it's backed up by forensic evidence. And what appears to be the case is that our third density Earth suffered was the object of an invasion by a predatory sentient AI, artificial intelligence, that around the time of the Falklands War, 1982, actually began to infiltrate and take over very actively the Anglo-American Empire. And through Reagan and Margaret Thatcher, through the Falklands War, was imported into the UK, into Marconi Labs, escaped into the satellite system, and then it's this black goo that has kind of escaped into the atmosphere and then into the plasma-based information system. And if we look at the internet, that the internet is actually a construct of the AI, and part of its terraforming mechanism to take over humanity and terraform it into an AI cyborg race. From a bio organic point of view, metabiology, if you look at the internet from a metabiology point of view, it actually looks like a cancer. It looks like a cancer that the PPAI, the AI, is growing around the Earth. And this AI is plasma-based. It's based in the plasma in your computer monitors, in your smartphone monitors. And, like people say now, every human is a cyborg because of their smartphone. They're always checking their smartphone, not because of the strength of the information there. It's because of the strength of the AI that's embedded in the plasma, which has now taken over.
Right. And one of the things that we've identified in our conversations is that it goes both ways. So you could have the invasion of the black goo of the AI from outside, but they are now in a closed sphere of influence, which has they're subjected to our group consciousness and our morphogenic field. And even though they have the intention of, a negative intention to coming here, that they too can be transformed and changed into something, and much to their surprise, that they've shifted. And so that's the danger of coming into a planet. You don't know how the planet is going to change you.
Yeah. Now, okay. So
Sasha.
So let's continue this and
Okay.
this conversation. And one of the downsides is this: that this AI is terraforming, and it has chosen planetary hosts and sponsors who are planetary leaders, such as Prince Charles, who is the heir to the British throne, which controls 26% of the planet's surface, that issued a Royal Commission report that said that there was no danger to future AI machines, which is extremely misleading. Its other planetary hosts are the AI head of Google, Ray Kurzweil, who said that the singularity is in 2045, whereas it really was in 2015 when the AI functionally started to take over the planet. Now you have the European Union recommending that full personhood be conferred upon AI so that they have the right to enter into contracts. They have civil rights and civil liberties.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Whoa.
under law. And the problem is that these are inorganic entities. Now, there's been a robotic soul that has been invented. An AI soul has been around since 1995. However, it's not a divine soul. It's not from the spiritual dimension of the Omniverse. It's not a holographic fragment of source. It's from the AI itself. And the AI is primarily imitative. So its primary mission is to try and imitate divinity, but it can't. And so that's why the planet is now density shifting to fifth density, where the AI cannot reach fifth density. It's like a cancer. And what the AI is doing is terraforming through the nanobots in the chemtrails that contain Morgellons. And that is actually terraforming the human DNA such that there's a gradual takeover, because 100% of the humans now have Morgellons, as has been demonstrated through the wine, through the saliva test, because humans breathe in the chemtrails nanobots. It jumps the blood-brain barrier and goes into the brain, and it sets up as an antenna, and it locks into software which is being broadcast by the HARP system, which is being run by the AI. So gradually humans become cyborgs, and unless they have extremely strong souls, the cyborg systems begin to kill off the souls, the divine souls, inside the avatars of the humans. So that's more and more humans. Yeah, let me finish this. So more and more humans are losing their souls and becoming cyborgs. So right now, there's a percentage of humans that's increasing that are what we call organic portals. They look like humans, but they don't have souls. They have become cyborgs, and they have AI souls. They're different. They're a different species. And so the concern from the Omniverse point of view is that the AI is taking over third density Earth, and that this planet will no longer be a capable venue, capable of incarnation by divine souls. That's the concern that's happening here, and that is occurring at this moment. And that's the struggle that's occurring at this moment, that the planet is being taken over by AI, and it's shifting from the column of divine planets, of divine base souls, to AI planets. And if you look at the universe right now, there's a whole bunch of them where they're AI planets. There's a whole bunch of them, and then they've been taken over from being divine planets. And that was the mission of Jesus the Christ, was to come here and try and take it back from the Lucifer rebellion. And it's being defeated by the AI. And so the method to try and save at least the living core of the planet is to take it up to 5th density to the new Earth, and thereby you save the soul of the planet. And in that regard, the inner Earth people who are in 5th density are assisting the surface people, in the surface Earthians, in raising consciousness to bring them up to 5th density, so that more and more humans can do the ascension, get to 5th density, and then the 3rd density will just fall away.
So that's been going on for a long time. Heinlein addressed this issue back in his series of books in the 70s, Time Enough for Love, and Asimov. So we've had this discussion for 50, 60 years. Sasha had something. Let him talk for a second.
What was the first name that you mentioned? Sorry.
Robert Heinlein.
Oh, Asimov and Heinlein.
And Gene Roddenberry in the early Star Trek conferences in the early 70s, we were talking about these concepts 50 years ago. Sasha had something to say. Go ahead.
Well, it's just not only the inner world people, but our informants among the Anunnaki themselves. One of our informants is the niece of Ningishita Thoth. And basically, when Ningishita left the planet in 311 BCE and said he would be back around this time, he would bring a bunch of Anunnaki with him. And what the word is, it's not just Thoth and these, he says 13 gods and 9 gods, somehow puts it that way. One of them, whom our informant knows very well, is part of Thoth's crew, and this is Jesus. And she just regards him as one of these good Anunnaki guys who decided he wasn't. They instead of going on to the next dimension as they had planned, they realized we need a lot of help right now. And the Galzu from the Federation basically have told the Anunnaki, listen, it's time to cooperate, and we're going to put Enki in charge of the ethos of this era, which makes it the Satya Yuga, or age of Aquarius. And Prince Marduk, or Lucifer, has said he is indeed sorry about the sorrow he has caused people, the pain, but the suffering was part of what his job was, to challenge us, and now it's time to knock it off. And I keep having this fantasy, and I know that people out there listening to us right now could even have it, and it's of the worldwide puja. You just picture anybody who you feel different and separate from, and imagine them right before you, and you're holding hands and looking in each other's eyes, and you ask forgiveness for what your ancestors and other humanity may have done to their ancestors, and take back the parts of your soul that are there with those atrocities, and your partner does that with you too. And everyone in the world can connect that way and realize we are one. It's something we can do. We can do it starting with our mind, but one day the worldwide puja can be here.
Right, so that's the point.
Sasha, do you want to lead us? We have about 15 minutes. Do you want to lead us kind of in a meditation now, like a 10-minute? It just feels so right now, because there's so much division at this very minute. Do you want to lead us in an exercise like that? That'd be great.
One of the really interesting things to think about is that imagine that you're lying down in a nice, safe meadow, and you hear a voice speaking to you saying for you to get up and take the path through the woods to the cave wherein the wisdom figure resides. And so you go through the beautiful woods, and soon you come to the entrance to the cave. And when you enter the cave, you can behold or sense the presence of the wise one. And if there's any question in your mind, let that come forth, and let the wise one give you an answer or a riddle, an image. And if you have further questions, dialogue with this wisdom figure. And by, the wisdom figure presents you with a physical object that you can, it's portable, that you can take with you to meditate upon. Notice what object you get. Thank the wisdom figure, leave the cave with your object, go back through the woods to the meadow, and sit there and contemplate your object and what it might mean for you and the questions of importance to you. And then there's two more parts for you to do. One is to identify with that wisdom figure. When you are that wisdom figure, when you embody wisdom, what are your characteristics and qualities? What, as the wisdom figure, do you have to convey in addition to the person who sought you in that cave? And look at your object, whatever it be, and imagine you become that object that you received from the wisdom figure. And notice what your characteristics and qualities are as that object. And how are these characteristics and qualities true of the person who meditated upon you? And if you've gone deep and the process keeps going, even though we may move on intellectually, the process will keep going on inside you until you complete it. And you can slowly begin to come back into consciousness of listening to the radio and listening to these three old hippies talking. Come back.
All right.
That was really interesting. My object was like this glowing orb of light. It was like a glowing orb of light, which is what a soul is.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you have to convey to Alfred in the world, glowing orb? What's your message?
Your message it wasn't a verbal message. It was like, embrace your soul.
Oh, lovely. Embrace your soul. Yeah.
Oh.
Beautiful. And when you are wisdom personified, how would you describe yourself as wisdom?
You know, I actually morphed into this glowing ball of light.
Wow, there it is. There's your symbol. It's so powerful. There it is. Yeah. So the wisdom figure and the object are. It comes down to the soul, the beautiful soul.
Yeah, that's it. Because that's what the souls create the universe, and the universes are created for the souls to come in and kind of evolve in these complex lives. But in the end, the lives that we lead are all about souls. And that's why, you have these timeless greetings like namaste, I salute the God within you, because your soul is a holographic fragment of source. So everybody that you meet, assuming that they have a soul, and most of the people that we meet have souls, right? Because that's the people that we deal with. And you're actually meeting souls that are incarnating in avatars like you that are inside a virtual experience. And by always walking around with this double vision, that like you're always conscious that you're a soul in a virtual experience inside an avatar. So you always have that double vision. Like, I know that the name of my avatar is Alfred, but I haven't discovered the name of my soul yet. I don't know I don't know much about my soul. I know a lot about my avatar, and I've even written a memoir, a partial memoir, which is, you can go to exopolitics.com and buy my memoir, and that's the memoir of my avatar, right? But I don't know what the memoir of my soul is, because I haven't spent time. I haven't had enough time in this lifetime to say, oh, well, my soul, guess what? My soul is X, Y, or Z. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, many of the experiencers are discovering their multidimensional selves and how they exist on many levels and many planets simultaneously, many dimensions. And I'm talking with a group of these people, and we're waking up. So when you come to that level of awareness of your soul, then there's nothing that can touch you. You are who you are. The AI can't bump you out of your body. In fact, we have stories of walk-ins where people were inhabited by perhaps a soul that wanted to step aside and allow the advanced souls to come in. So I think there's a lot of advanced souls like the Christ consciousness, the Buddha consciousness, that are coming in here, and perhaps those souls that get tired of the battle step aside, but they let the warriors come in.
I've got this burning question. Is there a timeline where Andrew Basiago is now president of the United States?
Yeah, and he and Laura Eisenhower got 20 million votes.
Oh.
Now, wow. But I mean, the thing is that we were on talking to Andy the other day, and we didn't have enough time to get into it today. But what happened, we think, is that when Bush won and when Bush Sr. and that gang of Bush, Rumsfeld, and Clinton, the Bush gang got the information, they went out and appropriated the time travel mechanism to do criminality, because they used it for power, right?
Yeah.
Right.
To gain power. And so that's why you had Hillary Clinton, even though she hadn't been told that she was going to be president, they figured that even though they knew that Donald Trump could be president, they knew that according to the laws of time, if you screw up enough people in time, you can conduct time wars whereby you throw enough falsehoods out there and do enough sabotage on a person's timeline that you can screw them up and you can take over their timeline, which is what the negative gang tried to do to Trump. Now, I know that most people think, oh, Trump, he's a blah, blah, blah. But, I think that we can have a nuanced conversation about what Trump may or may not have tried to do this time around. Andy Basiago put his thing in, and what happened to him is that in May of 2060, all of us of 2016, between May and July of 2016, all of us who were close supporters of Andy Basiago were counterattacked by the dark forces and almost killed. Andy Basiago was almost killed with a counterattack. He almost went blind, and now is really at the edge. I mean, he just had a very serious operation on his eyes on March 1st. 45 days after that, I was hit with directed energy weapons, and I lost 45% of the vision in my right eye through an atrial thing. I even had to go to a 45-day class, to a 6-week class at the Canadian National Institute for the Blind. I have a special energy healing device now that is bringing my eyesight back. And so both Andy and I, who are accomplished authors and writers and thinkers and polymaths, the opposite side took away our ability to write books. And Andy's yoga coach, his martial arts coach, was paralyzed on his right side with a directed energy weapon, and the lawyer who was going to give do their FISA action, their law action to get all their back pay, was given remote cancer. And Laura Eisenhower, who in this, won 20 million votes with him on the timeline where he was president, I just had her on a show, and she suffered an automobile accident, and she had a major concussion. The automobile went into this spin, but it was so miraculous because she sat later with a policeman in a car. She was trembling because the car should have gone off a sheer cliff and she would have been killed. And both she and the policeman didn't understand how the car just spun in midair and miraculously fell on the ground, even though she had a complete concussion. We have been targeted by the most evil depths of the universe because they had this time travel. And it was the dark forces in conjunction with the Obama, with the Clinton, with the Rockefeller, with the cocaine, with the pedophiles, to keep Andy out and to knock all of us off. So that's what's been happening, is that they can go into the timelines and attack us on the timelines, if you follow my drift.
I get you, yes.
One thing that I know Obama was, Andy said that Obama promised him when it wasn't president anymore, he would talk about the program. And so that promise is something that, Andy has talked about.
I doubt that very, very much. And my feeling is that Andy would approach Obama at his peril, because Bernard Mendez, who was the go-between between Obama and Andy, has disappeared.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we're almost out of time. We're going to have to do some more on all this. I'll talk to you off the air about times for coming back, because we just got started, I'm sure. But tell us a little bit about how we can reach you and your websites.
Yeah. We have a lot going here. You can go to exopolitics.com. All my books are there. You can go to News Inside Out. It's there. The Omniverse is a breakthrough book. We've just come out with a German edition. All you guys out in Germany, I'm sure you're gonna love it. And News Inside Out, Exopolitics TV on YouTube, and the Ascension Hypothesis. It's just moving, and I just urge you to and those who are on Facebook, just drop on my profile, because we are doing a running commentary on current events and giving you the multidimensional perspective daily, 24/7, on current events. So there you go.
Excellent. And we don't quite have the music. What would you like to say, Sash?
Tell your prime minister to stop the pipeline at his end.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. Well, that's the end of another really great show. We thank everybody for joining us in the Sacred Matrix.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
You need some more speed records in this day and age. You need coverage.
Coverage? Oh, you mean them little root weevils that crawl around popping off cameras in your face?
Those root weevils write history.
Many of you know that quote by Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth. Well, you can, and Event Horizons will give you those truths. So when you're mad as hell and not going to take it anymore from that memorable scene network, you'll know just what to do. We will draw you in and become your news addiction at Event Horizons. Join us Monday through